It's a good tuna, but I think I paid too much.
I always wear my mask and wash my hands after going home.
I am the king of the ring.
Welcome to the Japan What Podcast, episode 190. I am your host, Matthew PMBigelow.com. And I'm coming at you from the Aizumicho Studios in Shinjuku, Tokyo, Japan. The Armpit of Asia. Covering Japan Society 5.0, migration, depopulation, rising conflict in the Indo-Pacific, and the old supply chain wars. We welcome you to today's show. Busy day as usual. Haven't been covering the supply chain wars in the past few months. I think the world has been kind of wondering what was going to happen in the U.S. with the election, because those were two different pathways that the United States was going to take. And whether you like it or hate it, I don't want to take a side. Trump got in, so then we have the cascading effects of his victory in the United States there. And the supply chain war is an interesting one because a lot of people don't realize we're in a supply chain war, but I think we're in a supply chain war. I think it's very evident that when the West kicked out Russia from the SWIFT system after Russia invaded Ukraine, it really put the supply chain war into motion, especially from the weakened position that the kind of the G7 alliance had faced by turning off its economies during COVID and printing all the money. And then kicking out Russia, pushing it to China. China has its One Belt, One Road, or the Belt and Road Initiative policy, which is a network of maritime and over the land rail and highway structures that it wants to develop so that it can produce goods for the whole world, especially what is known now as the Global South. I'm not sure how I feel about that term, but that doesn't really matter. It's being used anyways. And then amid all that, the G7 countries, and Japan is included in that, are trying to go into a green revolution. So we have the competing edges of the supply chain war, and a lot of it's like in the game of chess. If depending on who's at the helm of the other team, you have to strategize your pieces based on what the other person will likely be doing. So I've been covering it a lot in the past few years, but in the past 4 or 5 months, didn't really see a lot. But just a couple of instances of China's moves in the supply chain war. It opened up a port in Peru recently, like a giant port, and it aims to create a highway across the southern part of South America into a port in Brazil, which would give China just a crazy amount of access. It would basically be creating a new canal, not a canal, but the equivalent of such. But along that highway trade route would be cities and resources and opportunities that China would be able to take advantage of from the Pacific side all the way back to the Atlantic side into the port that had opened up in Peru, and then ship it back to China and also ship things to South America that way. So that's just one example. And the United States, I'm not sure what they're doing. It's a bit odd. I don't know what they're doing. And amidst such unease, other people have taken it upon themselves, namely China and now Russia, and then the BRICS nations as well, to kind of, Brazil is part of the BRICS nations. So it kind of that highway there would connect Brazil to Peru to China directly. And then, Russia would be selling energy to China to fuel its trade adventures. Just an idea of the supply chain war. And of course, the United States likes its hegemony, but a lot of the G7 ambitions in the green field are not that appealing internationally. Like it might be popular in the news, but actually a lot of people don't want to spend $30 billion building offshore wind farms because it's not exactly green. They rust and fall apart. They take a lot of energy to make, and you don't get a lot out of them. That doesn't mean that everybody just wants coal-fired power plants, emitting God knows what into their backyards, the NIMBYs. And Japan falls into that as well because it's trying to start up its nuclear power plants, but there's a lot of NIMBY activism in Japan as well that aims to shut down the nuclear power plants. And you can kind of see the argument there because of what happened in Fukushima and all that. So these are the supply chain wars, and it's messy. It's hard to understand, but even when you consider Russia moving into Ukraine and peeling off the Donbass region there, well, that's very mineral rich, and it's also a production hub. It's an industrial hub in that region. So if Russia is going to kind of escape from the G7, which it's done, and then has been banned from the G7 essentially. It used to be the G8, and that was Russia. And then it was the G7, and inch by inch, Russia's been pushed out. Why not peel off an industrial segment of the map to power your future ambitions along a new ally, namely China? And why would you leave it behind for your new kind of enemy to take advantage of so close to your borders? So I even view that as part of the supply chain war. The Israel and the Gaza conflict there. The Gaza side falls into Russia and Syria and China as well, and then the Israel side falls into the G7 side as well. It gets very evident, and you say, well, what's Israel in a supply chain? Well, Israel is a manufacturer, or was. I don't know what they're manufacturing now after all this war they've been up to. But it's also been seen as new resources off the coast of Gaza there. And Israel aims to take over the Sinai Peninsula as well, thus opening more trade routes as well. So it looks to me as if we're in this very expansionist and messy and covert. It's a lot of subversion. It's a lot of special operations going on under the covers of the international wink society, where we all shake hands and wear business suits, but really there's a massive plan to subvert the current international world order. Or what is it? Instead of saying New World Order, what do our elites like to say? Because I'm a Canadian living in Japan, so we have to go by the elite vernacular. Oh no, it's not a New World Order, which is what George Bush Sr. said. No, we will establish a new world order and we will win, or whatever he said there. It's the international rules-based order. That's what it is. The international rules-based order. So, and then we also have the opposite of that, or the other side of the coin, not necessarily the opposite, which is the multipolar world. And it goes on and on from there. So going into that, into some specifics, would be, I'm wondering if there might be some people listening to the podcast, because I like to do security analysis from time to time, because it fits into the original aims of the podcast, which is a lot of AI deployment and AI in tech. And in the past 4 or 5 years, AI has just exploded into everything. And I spent 5 years in big tech in Japan from 2015 to 2020 in a telco, and they invested $100 billion into AI at that time. And I began to take it very seriously. And now I see it spreading into everything, and it's crazy how much it's going. But in terms of security, with China pushing flexing its muscles in the South China Sea, and pushing into Japan's territorial claims in the Senkaku Islands there, China calls them Jiaoyu or something like that. Taiwan also claims them, but they don't really do anything about it. The Coast Guard, China's Coast Guards are really aggressively pushing into these borders. And China, of course, wants the South China Sea for trade routes, mainly is what I view it as. Also resources to feed its people. A lot of desert in China. So it makes sense from China's ambitions to become the world's Super One hegemony that they would want these islands. But what can Japan do? Japan's population is falling off a cliff. Because no one's having children. I've had 2 kids in the past 4 or 5 years, so there's that. But it's not enough to fund a war with human resources. So, are we expected to just put thousands and thousands of troops on all of these tiny Japanese islands that they're called the Nansei chain by some people? Some people call it the Okinawa archipelago. Some people call it like the southern Japanese island chain. It depends who you're talking to and what their point of reference is, but are they supposed to just man these islands and hope for the best? Like, that's a very expensive thing to do, and it draws resources, blah, blah, blah. So I've been saying automate the defenses there. And I was thinking of having a 3-layer defense strategy One, the ultimate layer is porcupine, which is missiles. Just put missiles all over the islands. And if somebody comes to screw around with you and they land or they're about to land, or, you can tell if somebody's about to land, you fire some missiles or some torpedoes or something like that. Boom, screw them up. And then the other one would be having like little drone facilities, armed drones, explosives, maybe some guns, tracking as well. And if a bunch of troops land on an island, you just deploy the drones and, blow up as many arms and legs as possible. But the third layer of defense would be optical lasers, not weaponized, not directed energy weapons, DEWs. This would just be very high-powered light lasers. And if you have a bunch of ships coming around your islands or going into your territorial waters, you just light them up and you call it a friendly show, a friendly light show for our lovely neighbors. And you say, thank you for joining today's show. And you just light them up until they leave. I think that one's actually probably a great deterrent because nobody wants to get blinded. It's not really glorious to get in a ship and go somewhere and have somebody point a laser in your eye and you get blinded. Like if you go and storm a beach and you get your hand blown off, you might get an award or something like that. But it's like, congratulations, we sent you in a ship and they pointed a laser at your eyes and now you're blind. Nobody likes that. But I wonder if people are beginning to listen to these ideas. I'm not the only one talking about them, but a lot of the people in the higher levels of any organization don't really listen to podcasts. They are still in the mainstream. But a lot of the people in the mid to the upper mid sections of any organization, they don't like the normies so much, or they want to have their own thing, and they listen to podcasts. So it's possible that there might be somebody in one of these organizations with a pair of headphones or an earbud walking around going, where are these ideas? And they might come across a podcast with such ideas. Anyways, the first news item of today, we're recording this on November 27th, 2024, and this one was published on November 25th, 2024, coming to us from JapanToday.com via Kyoto News. U.S. to deploy missile units to Japan Islands in Taiwan contingency. Are they listening? The U.S. military will set up temporary bases along Japan's southwestern Nansei Island chain in the Philippines to deploy missile units in the event of a Taiwan contingency. Sources familiar with the matter said. The deployment of the missile units will be incorporated in the first joint operation plan for the United States and Japan to cope with a contingency involving Taiwan and China, which regards the self-ruled island as its own. The U.S. Marine Littoral Regiment, which possesses multiple launch high-mobility artillery rocket system, which is that HIMARS, will be deployed along the island chain stretching from the Japan prefectures of Kagoshima and Okinawa toward Taiwan, according to the sources. I'm not going to go too much into it after that, but it's just kind of interesting that they're taking these things seriously, and China is acting very aggressively within Japan as well. A few months ago, it dropped off a buoy inside of Japan's exclusive economic zone. And Japan has a massive exclusive economic zone, like a maritime one, because it has so many islands scattered about. But the territorial claims around the islands don't go on forever. There's like a boundary of 250 kilometers or 250 miles in some cases, or 80 miles or 150, something like that. And some of these islands have some spaces between them that are technically international waters, but to get to them, you have to go through Japan's exclusive economic zone. So China kind of did that once, where they went through the exclusive economic zone, found an area between two islands that didn't fall into the exclusive economic zone, dropped off a buoy there, and then left. It's like, what are you doing? That's such a creepy move, dude. I compared it like somebody walking outside your apartment and setting up a camera and pointing it at your bedroom window or something like that. Not your bedroom, but maybe your kitchen window. It's like, and the excuse is like saying, oh, I'm just filming the air between my camera and your window. I'm not filming your window. It's like, oh, I don't know about that. It's creepy behavior. But China says it will remove the buoy set up in the Japan's economic zone near Senkaku's. A lot of people say this is in response to like a growing friction of the supply chain wars. I'm not sure if that's the case. China does a lot of things for political reasons, and recently there's been some stabbings of Japanese students in China, and China might be removing this buoy as a way to calm down such things. I'm not sure, but diplomatically, it won't have any effect on the local level, but diplomatically, China might be saying like, okay, we'll remove the buoy, and maybe your Japanese students will be fine. I don't know, but it's just anyway. So China deployed the buoy, but now they're saying that they're gonna remove it. Next, moving away from the supply chain war on the front lines and moving it back into what I was kind of talking about earlier, how it's murky, it's misty. And on one side, you have the clear lines being drawn, which require a lot of investment and military backing. Like China's going to need to back its supply chain routes with the military. That's what you have to do. Everybody knows that. And I mentioned that the other G7 nations, Japan included, are pushing for like a green transition. And Japan is invested into this. It's invested heavily into this, and it's not withdrawing its investments from it. It's only going further. There's like the green, the carbon credit exchange on some stock exchanges in Japan for doing credit exchanges. I don't know how it works, but it's a big mystery and it doesn't make sense. And I think I mentioned it before on other podcasts, but some telecom operators, I believe it's NTT Docomo, have some sort of subsidiary or agreement with a satellite company that monitors pollution activities or with the satellites, green activities as well in South America. And I think it's a way to kind of hopefully get them to join the carbon credit scheme. So on one hand, you have China building infrastructure that aims to build up supply chains and economies. But on the other hand, you have satellites trying to tax people for the air they breathe. It's an air tax, more or less. But anyways, to get this going off the ground, it needs to happen domestically. But a lot of times, Japanese firms or people, they don't do anything unless they're forced to. It's kind of a strange thing to say, but it's largely true. It's like, I don't feel the need to do that, so I won't. But if they're obligated to, then they will. And this comes to us from November 25th. Japan to obligate up to 400 major firms to join CO2 emissions trading. Yeah, and this falls into the supply chain war because this is part of the push for a green supply chain and monetizing it by, essentially, I call it air tax, taxing the air. The Japan government says it expects to obligate 300 to 400 major firms to participate in a full-fledged carbon emissions trading system to be introduced in the fiscal year starting 2026, April. The tally has come up as the government plans to set a threshold for companies subject to joining the emissions trading scheme at those releasing 100,000 tons of carbon dioxide or more a year. See, it's an air tax. They say it's for CO2, but CO2 is part of the air. Around the same level as the European Union and South Korea with similar systems, the government said. So you can see that this is part of the G7 supply chain war, the supply chain of air credits, air taxation, with hundreds taking part from a broad range of industries such as electricity, steel, cars, and airlines. The system is estimated to cover about 60% of domestic greenhouse gas emissions. Japan is the world's fifth largest CO2 emitter. Under the trading system, the emissions quotas will be allocated to each company for free. If a company's emissions surpass its quotas, it must purchase additional quotas at the market, while a company with surplus quotas can sell them, like stocks. While this system is expected to encourage emissions cuts, companies can pass on the costs, burdening consumers. Yeah, so why would an air tax increase the prices of everything that we eat and breathe? Craziness. I prefer the BRICS system at this point. It's I'm not saying that China and Russia and all them are governments that I'd like to live under, but their long-term vision strategy makes a lot more sense, and I could see a lot more benefits coming from it as opposed to a stupid air tax and trading carbon credits. Who the hell wants that? I've never met anybody who wanted that. And anything else? Last one, I'm not going to go into it too much, but Japan research team develops plastic that breaks in seawater. I'm not going to read too much into it right now because I want to get on to the Japan Society 5.0 segment. But it just says, an international team of researchers has developed a type of plastic that can break down in seawater in a bid to decrease environmental pollution and the accumulation of plastics in oceans, it said in Friday's edition of the U.S. academic journal Science. The material, called supramolecular plastic, has similar tensile strength and can also be processed like petroleum-based plastics, according to the research team, including members from the National Science Research Institute, RIKEN, and the University of Tokyo. Those are Japan's top of the top. So if you're part of those people, you're in the top of the top badasses in terms of brains and know-how and stuff like that. So if you're interested, I'll be posting the link up at MatthewPMBigelow.com. And why not go to MatthewPMBigelow.com to check out these links, review, and get some pictures, and maybe even possibly make a donation at paypal.me/JapanWUT. All right, let's move on to Japan Society 5.0.
The fourth industrial revolution will enable us to create a new society.
What?
Artificial intelligence will transform the big data collected through the Internet of Things into new wisdom.
No way.
Society 5.0. A technology-based, human-centered society.
Whoa.
The fourth industrial revolution will raise our standard of living and solve various challenges we face.
Nice.
It will, for example, free us from the stress of driving, allowing us to safely visit anyone, anytime. We will have access to the latest medical advancements at a low cost, no matter where we are.
All right, and that's the Japanese government's official YouTube video song that I ripped a few years ago, many years ago now. And the 5.0 is Japan Society 5.0 is just a push into the next level of society where everything is networked wirelessly and essentially the functions of our phone are distributed into the architecture around us, the infrastructure around us. Sounds kind of wild, but they've been pushing for it. And I've been tracking this stuff for about 10 years now after spending 5 years in the telco, big tech, as an English teacher for some of the higher ups there and looking at trends and basically researching trends in this space and delivering it to them. And I don't really focus on the news a lot because the news is corrupt. The news is very corrupt. In fact, it's most tech news is from the West, especially, is corrupt because they're just constantly worried about the two sides of the AI crazy coin. And that one side is AI is going to take our jobs, which it probably will. Then it's going to become our friends, probably won't. It's going to screw our wives, likely not. And then kill us, likely not, unless we're involved in some sort of AI drone warfare. But it's not going to be like robot. I don't know. There's like a weird kind of catastrophist, defeatist view. And then the other view of AI is that it's just silly consumer products that we get updated on our phones and it makes us tap our phones, but it doesn't really do anything. But by looking at the way the infrastructure is being deployed and invested or accepted and adopted in Japan, we can see where and how technology such as like facial recognition, AI cameras, self-driving cars are being promulgated throughout this island nation. And it is. But if we just focus on kind of fear porn, AI fear porn, it's good for talking. It's good for discussion. It's like a logical paranoia, but it doesn't really provide anything. So I'm going to take a look at the first one for today. And I'm going to begin with self-driving and end with self-driving and a bookend it. The reason I'm going to begin with it is that I found this article and I thought it was really interesting, just the technical capabilities of this thing, but it was so poorly written. And then one thing about a lot of Japanese reporting techniques is that they repeat details you don't need to know over and over and over again for the first 3 or 4 paragraphs. And then they start telling you what's happening in the actual news. I don't know why it's like that. I would be curious to ask Japanese people, like, why do you read the same sentence 7 times before getting into any technical details? But they'd probably be like, what? What do you mean? Water is wet? Water is wet. That's why. It'd be like asking a fish if they know what water is. So this is the headline. And I put it through Chat GPT like 5 times to filter it into something readable. So I'm just going to read the headline from carview.yahoo.co.jp and then move into Chat GPT's summary of it. The AI self-driving race, A2RL, held in Suzuka, actually communicated using the SIM card of the low-cost smartphone Ijmo. Uninterrupted stability was confirmed even at speeds over 200 kilometers an hour. Now, this is on a racetrack. So a racetrack is a good testing field for this because you don't have a lot of buildings that get in the way. There's not a lot of people running around. You don't have dogs and all this kind of real world interruptions that can interfere with what you're trying to test. So 5G self-driving car tests have been going on in Korea for a long time, and it makes sense. So the people are developing self-driving cars, but I didn't know that they were able to use a SIM card in a low-cost smartphone. So I'm just going to kind of go through this pretty quickly here. And this is moving over to Chat GPT, and this is the 5th iteration. The A2RL autonomous racing car recently made a breakthrough demonstration at the Suzuka circuit during the Super Formula Final, showcasing how AI can drive a racing car at speeds exceeding 200 kilometers an hour. Using a low-cost SIM card, the car's AI communicated seamlessly with the pit crew, allowing real-time commands, something traditional racing setups cannot do. Communication stability was a key achievement, given the challenge of maintaining a signal with thousands of spectators at the circuit. Though it's not, that's promotion because, they're sitting in chairs and they're not getting in the way of the signal and things like that. Though it's not yet as fast as human-driven vehicles, I would say the connection. The demonstration showed significant potential for AI in racing. Communication stability was a key achievement given the challenges of maintaining a signal. With thousands of spectators at the circuit. It's repeating itself. They initially considered using a prepaid SIM for tourists, but switched to IIJ due to compatibility issues, as well as IIJ's existing relationship with Super Formula, including help desk services and circuit-wide Wi-Fi through Starlink, and it made them a natural fit to handle their communication needs. So the cars were outfitted with 2 SIM cards and a router, ensuring a stable connection despite potential congestion. A safety mechanism was also installed to stop the car if communication was interrupted. And it goes on a little bit from there. So I just thought that was interesting, using AI and a SIM card to drive cars over 200 kilometers an hour and have no interruption between the receiver and a car. Anyways, it's just crazy what they're doing these days. Would you put your child in a car like that? Would you get in a car like that? Or would you go to a place and watch a car like that? It's interesting. There are levels of acceptability. It's like, I'm not putting my kids in that car. I might get in that car. I'd definitely go watch that car. All right, we're going to take a look at facial recognition now. I've been covering this company for the better part of a year now, and this is DXYZ facial recognition platform, Frido or Free ID. They've been installed in new condominiums that are selling like hotcakes, originally in Tokyo, then in Yokohama and Osaka as well. And the entire condominium is outfitted with facial recognition technology for locks. So everybody's face, if you're living at that place and registered, you can open the front entrance gate, but you can only open your door with your face. And the camera is installed in the door handle of your front door. It's not like a camera that's hanging somewhere. It's not like a security camera where you look up and it scans and it goes boop, 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 beep. No. You walk up to a nice fashionable door handle and you stare at it and it goes, and you pull it and it opens. Nobody would even notice if they were walking past, if this infrastructure was installed. Around you, you wouldn't notice. You would just look at a person and they would pull open his door and go in. But actually his face was the lock. And so I was surprised that this was being deployed in Japan and that these condominiums were selling out immediately. And this company, Frido, this platform by DXYZ, they want to expand the range of use for their facial recognition customers. So not everybody in Japan wants to use facial recognition, but by selling facial recognition condominiums, now you have people, lots of people in one place where they all want to use facial recognition. Now you can begin to push solutions to those people and see which ones they want and which ones they don't want. Facial recognition for shopping, facial recognition for concert tickets, facial recognition for access to gyms and things like that. Instead of applying it to a blanket demographic, now you have locations throughout Tokyo, Yokohama, I believe, Osaka, and now you're beginning to develop a database. Isn't that interesting? Anyways, so this group company, DXYZ facial recognition platform Frido, to be deployed overseas for the first time. Wow. Facial recognition attendance management linked to Tsuneishi shipbuilding HR system to be provided to Timor Leste, a tiny country that broke off from Indonesia like 80 years ago, something like that. Just off the top of my dome. Don't get angry at me, Timor Leste. So this is translated by Google from prtimes.jp. So we are pleased, not we, but this article, we are pleased to announce that DXYZ Inc., a group holding company, which creates new value by combining the digital and real worlds, has linked the facial recognition platform Frido with the human resources system Tsuneishi Shipbuilding Co., headquartered in Hiroshima Prefecture, and will begin offering facial recognition attendance management at its overseas base in Timor-Leste from October 2024. The facial recognition platform Frido was introduced to Tsuneishi Shipbuilding's Tokyo office in October 2022 and has since been introduced to 9 facilities, including offices and factories of Tsuneishi Group shipbuilding companies. The project aims and marks the first overseas introduction of Frido. List of facilities where Frido offices have been introduced in the shipbuilding companies. Located in the Tokyo office, at the Enoshima factory, located at the head office in the Niigata factory, Misaka factory, Tsuneishi Engineering head office, Kanda Dock, Wakaba factory, and Tsuneishi Timor shipbuilding in Unepeso at their office there. I just think that's very interesting. Moving on. Japanese facial recognition in Timor East. Next, Daito Trust Construction introduces facial recognition entrance and exit system to approximately 200 branches nationwide. A lot of this has to do with Japan's aging population, and traditionally you'd have guardmen, but they're all super old and nobody wants to become one, and they're costly and they don't really do that much. So if you can replace them with a little hole in the wall that connects wirelessly and it has a facial recognition application onto it, and you might have reduce your guardman roster by up to like 90%. Just if something is noticed by the facial recognition system, you send a person there to go deal with it, or they call the police. I don't know. But anyway, so this would streamline coming and going. Daito Trust Construction will introduce a facial recognition entrance exit management system at approximately 200 branches nationwide. Employees will be able to enter and exit the office smoothly just by pointing their face at the camera. According to Daito Trust Construction's calculation, this is expected to reduce management time by approximately 2,748 hours per year. It's a lot. It's interesting, too, because for the facial recognition for the apartment buildings, it's like built into the door handle and it looks cool and you're like, nobody even knows. And not even that. It's probably just like, and it opens. But for these entrance and exit way at security, it's like there's a giant screen and you have to walk up to it and it looks at you and it goes red, 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 green, and then the doors open. You go, it's like a security apparatus. It's the same technology almost exactly, but it's just one is like a red screen and it looks official. And you're like, I hope it recognizes me. Then you go home and you do the same thing, but you pull out the door handle and you're like, boop, yeah, that's cool. On November 18th, 2024, Daito Trust Construction announced that it will introduce, so this is the thing that goes on and on and on. Previously, the company had employees enter and exit the building by holding their IC cards over a card reader. This method of entry caused problems such as tailgating when multiple people entered at the same time and incomplete attendance reports due to employees forgetting to touch their IC cards. In addition, the batteries in the devices needed to be replaced every 2 to 3 months, which was a hassle to manage, and so on. And carrying a company card, it's kind of interesting. I did it for a long time, but not being able to worry about putting something from your company in your wallet or to keep it in your bag all the time. It's also quite nice. I don't like taking stuff from the office home. Next. So amid all of this, and then Japan is like on the edge of the G7, like it's Asian, so it feels the need for convenience. Like Asian societies love convenience by and large. And even if you have to give up some of your, like, it's going to track me a little bit, I don't care. A lot of the Asian people just don't care, as long as it doesn't share your private data in Japan, just whatever. Not just whatever, but it's a little bit more lenient. But there's not like a philosophical, existential threat that permeates a lot of Western cultures, like this one from Australia, for example. Australian government orders to halt facial recognition at mass retailers, calling it illegal even for crime prevention purposes. So there's like a Luddite kind of attitude in the West right now where they just want to talk about innovation, but they don't want to innovate. They want to bring 3 million people into their country, but they don't want to build any homes to accommodate them and then wonder why the hospitals are full or something like that. Very silly cultures these days. I'm from them, and I look at them, and I go, are you guys doomed? Do you guys have like 10 years left? Or what? What's going on with you guys? When I left in 2006, you guys had your stuff together. In fact, it was risky to come to Japan, and I thought about it, like, I should probably go back. But then by 2015, I was like, what's going on with you guys? Like, just went spiraling out of control. The Australian government's watchdog on personal information protection, the Australian Information Commission, has ordered a major mass retailer to halt its operation of a security system using facial recognition without the consent of customers, stating that it is illegal. The store is dissatisfied with the decision and has filed an objection with the administrative tribunal. I'm not going to go into it any more than that, but I just wanted to kind of provide a counterbalance where a lot of the places in Asia are going out with this and experimenting with it and seeing where it can be used and where it cannot be used. And one key difference between Japan and China is that China just rolls it out everywhere, and it's for totalitarian reasons by and large. Like they just want to track and manage everything. And China had issues of being a very low trust society until very recently, where the ATM would give you counterfeit money and then you would go and buy counterfeit goods, but everybody would have to pretend that it wasn't counterfeit. But ever since the QR code payment systems have been introduced, well, that's legitimate currency. And if you're going to be selling illegal items over a government-tracked platform like Alipay it's not SenseTime, there's some of the other ones. You might get caught. So, and the taxi drivers with Didi, you agree on the price before you get in, and it's confirmed over the phone. So there's not like this scammer opportunity. So it kind of changed that society in such a way that a lot of people would consider it better. I don't really enjoy such paranoia fantasy come to life. 1984, make Orwell fiction again, one of those types of things. But in Japan, with the market application, we'll just see where people want to use it. And if they want to use it, they can. And if they don't want to use it, they don't have to. So it's a very different operation. And then in the West, it's just like, no, we can't. It's going to kill us. Next, AI camera rental service with 0 yen initial cost and 2,000 yen per day. Launch of new cloud AI camera rental plan offering free rental of multiple small cameras and video analysis service. It's crazy that this technology is so advanced, yet they're practically giving it away. That's also kind of why are they giving it away? Why was Facebook free? Why was it free? I wonder. Was it mind control? No, it's just free. Why else would Zuckerberg be worth $8,900 billion? Because he released a free service and then sold advertisements on it. That's how you become such a billionaire. BST Inc. will be releasing a new cloud AI camera rental plan in addition to its existing Edge AI camera rental plan as an AI camera rental service. With this new plan, you can rent small cameras free of charge and then conduct highly accurate traffic volume surveys and analyses by paying only the analysis fee for the recorded data stored on the cloud or elsewhere for the number of cameras. The new service will enable us to reflect the feedback we have received from our customers about our previous services and meet their diverse needs. The new plan has no initial costs and camera rental is free. The cost of data analysis is 2,000 yen per device per day. I'm not sure if that's cheap, but I just thought it was interesting that they are giving the technology out for free, but then the application layer is the thing that you pay for. And I've been saying this a lot, like all of these data centers getting built up, that's the new infrastructure. That's actually where the infrastructure is. And then sort of these low-tech end devices are put into our homes and into our cities and scattered throughout and about. And these things connect into the data centers. And then these devices that are scattered out and about are also future-proof ready. So you can download things into them or upload things into them, depending on your perspective. It's like an IoT network. So when you release a new service or release something in addition to what you've had before, the camera in your house or on your door or somewhere doesn't change. It just gets a new ability. Maybe they find out that you need to recognize a new type of pattern recognition or a new type of behavior, or something else happens. They realize that there's a new market value for the facial recognition applications, and they develop it, then they ship it, then they test it in ghost mode, and then they activate it, and suddenly your thing now has something else. So you don't need to go and update it. It just updates in the future, and you don't even realize it's there because it's a little hole in the wall. So these cameras might not be that valuable, but the application layer for the edge service, which takes the data and sends it up to the cloud, that's where all the analysis happens, and that's where the value is, actually. The value is in the cloud layer, which is just another word for somebody else's computer. And in this case, the computer is most likely a server inside of a data center somewhere. So the infrastructure is remote, but the application is unobtrusive most of the time. Onward. AI cameras prove effective in preventing touting, reducing touting by 14% in Hyogo Prefecture. If detected, audio warning is issued. This comes to us from yomiri.co.jp, from Japanese, not from English. And basically, the Yomiri's position is the government is great. So when the government uses AI, it's really good for you because it's the government keeping you safe. That's the Yomiri's position on this. It's not like, look at this new technology, because I remember like being in Canada and 7-Elevens at night would play really boring, drawn out classical music outside so people wouldn't loiter. So these kind of getting people out of the way exist. But now that it's being done with AI, which is a Society 5.0 thing by the government to keep us safe, well, now we need to know about it from the Yomiri. Hyogo Prefecture has announced the results of a demonstration experiment using AI security cameras conducted in May and June in 2 locations in the northern Sannomiya area of Chuo Ward, Kobe City, which is designated as a solicitation prohibited area under local ordinances. The system issues an audio warning when it detects multiple people lingering for a certain amount of time, and the number of detections has decreased by an average of 14% compared to when the audio warning is not issued. The second demonstration experiment began this month in a total of 4 locations, including 2 prohibited areas in Nishinomiya City, and further verification will be conducted in preparation for full-scale operation. This is like surveillance capitalism. This is like the widespread government approach where it aims to modify behavior by monitoring actions with computers that think for themselves. The prefecture enacted an ordinance to completely ban soliciting in downtown areas in 2015, blah, blah, blah. But it went on and on and on. So I'll be linking that at matthewpmbigelow.com. And of course, their attitude is shifting public behavior. This is also a cover your ass move because now instead of having government employees shouting at citizens, which citizens might say, why is the government shouting at me? Why is a person in the government shouting at me? It's actually just the government shouting at you. So it's interesting that we used to have like avatars of the government, like somebody working in a government building. When you're in that government building, of course, that person has their life and their family and everything like that. But when they're in that building, they're essentially an avatar of the government. But with this AI technology, it removes the people, but it gives those people the exact same skills the government needs to carry out its government activities. So in a sense, we're kind of animating the government. It's government animus. That's a show title, Government Animus. I'll have to look it up to make sure it actually makes sense. Moving on. Hitachi Solutions Technology sells package that uses monocular camera and image recognition AI to detect dangerous behavior in real time. So this would be, of course, the large corporations wanting to get in on the government contract action. Why not? It's profitable. It's good. In recent years, the number of workplace accidents has been on the rise, and it is said that behind one serious accident, there are hundreds of near-miss incidents. This is actually for another area, sorry. Although I'm sure Hitachi is moving into those areas as well with the similar technology. Why not? Why wouldn't you? It would just make good business sense. Even from like a consulting perspective, who knows? But with workplace management, especially in blue collar or dangerous environments, this type of surveillance is going on a lot. It has been pointed out that once a workplace accident occurs, prioritizing responding to it may make it difficult to carry out normal work duties. Although there are rules at work sites, it is said that many contact accidents occur due to carelessness, especially in places with a high potential for danger. In this context, Hitachi Solutions Technology Limited will begin selling the Real-Time Analysis Solution Package, the second safety monitoring solution that utilizes image recognition AI technology and monocular camera ranging new technology from December 16th, 2024. Yeah, it's not in the future, it's happening right now. The Real-Time Analysis Solution Package is a solution that prevents accidents within facilities by detecting and warning in real time dangerous behaviors such as abnormal closeness between forklifts and people, violations of stop signs, and entry into specific areas. By utilizing videos of detection scenes and statistics on detection results, it supports the analysis of dangerous behaviors and fosters safety awareness among employees. In a way, it's the exact same thing as that other technology. Noticing behavior and issuing warning about it. It's good for getting rid of touts in the street. Hey, you want a massage? Whereas the dudes in Roppongi used to say to me back in 2008 when I would go to Roppongi sometimes, like to go to a show, you're just trying to get past the touts. Hey, man, you like a titty? You like a titty? It's like the first time I was like, yeah! But like the second time you're like, no, stay away from me. Stay away from me. Onward. Hiroshima plans. Okay, so that's the facial recognition and AI camera section for today. Hiroshima plan. This one we get into kind of a weird corner. This comes to us from news.ntv.co.jp. Who else brings such diverse sources? Anybody? I think not. Hiroshima City plans to start using AI-based device. This is really strange. to virtually communicate with atomic bomb survivors in August 2025, the 80th anniversary of the atomic bombing. This is a video here of a guy who's 93 years old who's recalling the times of the nuclear explosion. He's very dapper, by the way. I would suggest going to MatthewPMBigelow.com. That's MatthewPMBigelow.com. And it'll take you to this Japanese site, but at the top, there's like a video with a play button on it, and you can kind of see how they're approaching this. A recording of a survivor was done on a device that uses AI to virtually converse with the survivor. Speaking to the camera is A-bomb survivor Sadao Yamamoto, 93 years old. Hiroshima City is producing a device that, when a user asks a question, AI will play back the appropriate answer from the survivor that was pre-recorded. During the recording, Yamamoto looked back on the wartime period, saying, "All I could do was live my daily life. A little more specific would be better for the future generations, dude." A-bomb survivor Sadao Yamamoto also said, "I don't know how long I can continue to bear witness, but I think it's a very good thing that we can pass on stories to future generations using modern technology." Hiroshima plans to start using the device in August 2025, the 80th anniversary of the atomic bombing. It's kind of a who knew that AI would be used for that story. Moving on to the final couple of stories here, Miyazaki City introduces AI marking for junior high school tests, hoping to reduce burden on teachers. I wonder how much of this AI is going to go into our school systems as well. I've heard people studying English that they just use ChatGPT, like the voice function, and they can talk about whatever they want, and they don't have to feel burdened or pay money. It's a crazy experience. So this whole idea of teaching as well, but multiple choice answers have been able to be scanned by machines for years now. I don't know why they're not doing it in Japan, but anyways, AI will do that now. And moving into some self-driving.
Here we go.
Tier 4 starts selling Minibus 2.0, accelerating the social implementation of self-driving buses. Tier 4, whose vision is to democratize autonomous driving, will begin selling the Minibus 2.0 as the new model in the fanfare lineup, a solution that accelerates the production of electric vehicles with autonomous driving functions, which was unveiled in June 2023. The Minibus 2.0 incorporates new, highly sought-after features, which have been well received throughout Japan since the initial Minibus 1.0 launch. Compliant with the autonomous driving level 4 standard set by the Japanese government, the Minibus 2.0 has further strengthened redundant systems to improve safety compared to the Minibus 1.0. Then Tier 4 also aims to roll out the Minibus 2.0 throughout Japan and plans to begin deliveries by the end of 2024. That's right now. In addition to expanding the Minibus 2.0 through company-led introduction in each region, the company will also produce and promote the Minibus 2.0 with an eye towards overseas expansion. And it kind of goes on from there. That's from the prtimes.jp. I've been following Tier 4 for a while now, and they are in on the World Economic Forum as well. I've seen Tier 4 CEOs at like a WEF conference, and I've found Tier 4 and World Economic Forum collaborations be in the past as well. And in the beginning of this Japan Society 5.0 segment,
The Fourth Industrial Revolution.
The Fourth Industrial Revolution is also the title of a book written by Klaus Schwab called The Fourth Industrial Revolution. So this is like this weird public-private collaboration that goes on. And I don't know why Tier 4 has been kind of chosen as the one, but something's like a little fishy to me. I can't put my finger on it. I could be wrong. If I'm totally wrong, I apologize to everybody. But it's just kind of odd. Autonomous level 4 driving, then Tier 4 comes along, and then they get on the World Economic Forum, then the official Japanese government, jingly song promoting it begins with the direct quote from Klaus Schwab.
The Fourth Industrial Revolution will...
So, I don't know, there's this weird part of it that used to be more prevalent, but isn't as much now because like the World Economic Forum used to have a branch office in Tokyo, but it's since closed. It was in Akasaka, and I tried to find it, but it's gone. And so they've kind of melted away into the background again. I don't know what's going on with them so much, but it appears that there's like more connections than it seems, and it's kind of vague right now. But that's the best I can do. In fact, I prefer it to be vague. I don't like those people, and I don't like having to talk about them so much. Last one for today. Tottori City conducts demonstration experiment of self-driving bus in urban area, investigating signal coordination and night operation. And that's the autonomous driving of route buses will be implemented in collaboration with Willer, a company involved in the transportation business. Tier 4, look at that, which develops autonomous driving-related software. Tottori City, Hinomaru Motor Vehicles, and Nihon Kotsu with the cooperation of Tottori City Next Generation Mobility Promotion Council. I'm going to link that up at the website, MatthewPMBigelow.com. I don't really find self-driving buses to be that interesting. They move slow. They're kind of small. They're basically geared towards the aging society so that as seniors don't have to drive to clinics or don't have to drive to hospitals. Maybe in the future it could pick you up at your house, but I think ideally you have to get to a train station. It picks you up at the train station and then takes you to the clinic or the hospital or the library and then takes you back again. And you don't have to hire a bunch of drivers and support staff to get all this stuff done. You just simply book a time via your smartphone. And a lot of seniors now don't feel comfortable with smartphones, but I mean, Gen Xers are turning 60 now, and in 5-10 years' time, that segment of the senior population is going to be more than comfortable handling such activities. So it's kind of boring, but that's where it's being rolled out. That's why I kind of began with the sports car that goes 200 kilometers an hour with a SIM card and not with self-driving buses. Those got put towards the end. All right, that's Japan Society 5.0 for today.
The fourth industrial revolution will enable us to create a new society.
No way.
Artificial
All right,
intelligence.
I'm going to leave it there for today. So I have a song coming up, and the song is an AI song, and it's based on the headlines from today's show. So I get the headlines, and I get Grok from X to rewrite them into lyrics. Then I alter them to make sure that it makes sense. And then I put them through an AI song generator called Suno.com. And this one today is a fascinating song. I'm getting pretty good at prompting these things to make songs that wouldn't be made by a human, but also don't sound like a dinky computer made them. So it's like trying to get AI to make songs that sound like they're written by AI, but are actually good. So I don't think a human would ever think to make a song like this. And I'm going to leave that song with you today. So make sure to go to the website, MatthewPMBigelow.com, give us some traffic. Also consider clicking on some of those links and checking out the photos on the website, as well as making a donation at paypal.me/JapanWUT. That's paypal.me/JapanWUT. All right. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. The future's, it's happening right now. It's not in the future. It's happening right now. That's like the byline of the show, I think, these days. And like I said, it's a lot of this technology rollout is not going to be obvious. You're not really going to see it. I mentioned in the past, like a new airplane in the 1900s, you notice that thing. An atomic bomb, you notice that thing. Smartphones, you notice that thing. But a little hole in the door that reads your face and allows you into your home, you don't notice that. And you don't go to the data centers. So there's like this removal, and it's observational, and it's observing us and our families, mine and yours are going to have to deal with this in the future. And knowing about it now is a way to not be flat-footed when it starts knocking on your door, wink, wink, in the future. All right, everybody, take it easy. Ja mata.
In the land of the rising sun, let's take a look at the condition. U.S. missiles on Japan's isles in case of Taiwan's mission. CO2 trading, big firms in Japan, they're now obligated. Plastic in the sea breaks down, research celebrated. It's not in the future, it's happening now. It's not in the future, it's happening right now. On the Japan What podcast, A's on the rise with a tech surprise. Buses steer themselves, cameras supervise. The wheel takes the wheel on today's broadcast. Totori test buses at night and through traffic. Signal coordination, a futuristic tactic. Fukuoka sites, AI made them fake. Tourists beware, don't bite that digital cake. Hiroshima's plan to chat with the A-bomb past. AI talks to survivors, memories coded to last. Miyazaki's kids, their tests now AI marked. Teachers can breathe, no more grading in the dark. It's not in the future, it's happening now. It's not in the future, it's happening right now. On the Japan What podcast, A's on the rise with a tech surprise. Buses steer themselves, cameras supervise. The wheel takes the wheel on today's broadcast. Rent an AI camera, 0 yen to start. Watch for tots in Hyogo, it's an Hitachi's got tech. Dangerous moves they'll spot. Monocular magic, safety on your lot. In the future, it's happening now. It's not in the future, it's happening right now. On the Japan What podcast, on the Japan What podcast, on the Japan What podcast.